This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We've all been there, waiting for a package to be delivered, then getting home to find out it's been stolen before you could bring it inside. Porch pirates have plagued communities for years, but now Winnipeg police say they've arrested 3 people responsible for a slew of thefts in one area of the city. CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
Swap the packages.
Last year, Jesse Carlson had a present for his kids stolen just days before Christmas.
You just don't feel safe anymore.
In a video recorded by cameras around Carlson's home, you can see a woman coming out of a white SUV and go towards his porch. In her hand, she's holding another box, which she quickly swaps with a delivered package.
It was a ripped open box, and then we tried to look on the name. There was no name. It was just a decoy box.
He's just one of many residents in Transcona with a similar story. To help fight porch piracy in the area, the Winnipeg police started Project Thrifties late last year. The investigation shows at least 9 incidents of packages being stolen, but those are only the ones that were reported.
I would suspect that there is a lot more going on out there than that has been reported.
Police say 3 people known to police have been charged with theft under $5,000. They say a 35-year-old woman is behind 7 of the total 9 thefts dating back to August of last year.
I'm very happy with how this situation was handled.
Carlson says he's now more careful when he orders a package. Police are encouraging Winnipeggers to also be cautious. Finding a safe location for deliveries or requiring a signature are options they say can help stop porch piracy. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Brandon's police chief calls it a heavy day for the city. It comes after the arrest of a man facing serious charges, including child pornography. Police say not only was he a foster parent, but had a home daycare operating inside his house. Now they fear there could be more potential victims. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has the latest.
On Monday, Brandon police got a call from Canada's Child Exploitation Unit saying that children in the city were in danger. Police Chief Tyler Bates says that night they executed a warrant arresting a 37-year-old man for producing, distributing, and accessing child pornography across the world.
Because of the gravity and the seriousness and the victimization of these kids, they needed to be rescued as soon as possible.
The man was taken into police custody. His common-law partner and 6 foster children were also in the home. Police say the children were taken into CFS care to keep them safe. Police say the couple was operating a home daycare at their residence. A computer and other electronic devices were seized. The children's parents were notified by police and Child Family Services.
You can imagine the horror and the shock of the parents that learn of criminal instances of this magnitude at that residence and how concerning that would be.
After his arrest and a review of the devices, more charges were laid on Wednesday, connected to a June incident where child pornography images were uploaded, stored, and distributed. Police believe there are likely more victims.
My heart goes out to the families, to the parents that have had to deal with this horrific reality, to the kids that are ever impacted by this victimization.
Brandon police say they're not releasing the man's name right now to protect the identities of the victims and their families. It's working with Child and Family Services and investigators from Toba Centre for Children and Youth to provide support for the children and their families. The case will be heard in court next on February 18th. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
The Manitoba government says it's exceeded its goal of hiring 1,000 new healthcare workers. It says it's hired more than 1,200 net new workers into the health system since April 1st, of which 481 are new nurses. The province says this includes graduating students, but also some retirees and employees who had left to work for private agencies.
So the prospect of fixing healthcare is going to take years to accomplish. But the good news is we're making progress, help is coming to the front lines, and your care is improving.
The Premier says the additional staff is already having an impact, noting a 45% reduction in mandatory overtime for nurses within the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. CUPE, which represents 19,000 workers in healthcare facilities, home care and personal care homes, the union president says while this is encouraging, there's still more work to be done.
So while we've seen some improvements, there's still nowhere where we can say specifically where it has where all the issues have been alleviated, but we are seeing some improvements.
The union president says safety is one of the issues that has been concerning to their members. Now, to address some of those safety concerns, the province's largest hospital is turning to artificial intelligence. New AI-powered weapon detectors will become a permanent fixture at some entrances at HSC. As CBC's Rosanna Hempel tells us, the devices will soon be seen in a number of different areas.
Shared Health has chosen the Canadian company Extract One to detect for weapons here at Health Sciences Centre. This AI technology can detect guns, knives, even bear spray and bomb-making parts, and where they are on the body.
The entrances to the adult and children's emergency departments and the crisis response center will get scanners over the next few days.
It will be fully installed and in place, I believe, February 13th, but the work is happening right now.
According to a memo, the Adult Emergency Department installed and launched theirs on Friday. The decision comes after Shared Health piloted weapons detection technology from a few different companies last year to increase safety at HSC. Extract One's CEO, Peter Evans, believes his company was picked because it's good at detecting a broad set of weapons.
In general, what we like to see as a minimum is that we're catching 98% of the firearms. We're catching north of 96% of the edge weapons.
Evans says their scanners are being used in healthcare facilities and other locations across the United States, including Madison Square Garden. The technology allows people to walk through the scanners without having to remove any belongings. He acknowledges no system is perfect and says they're constantly improving. Still, the Manitoba Nurses Union is pleased the scanners are finally here to stay. President Darlene Jackson says nurses felt safer during the pilot project.
I would really like to see those scanners move to facilities outside the perimeter, not just within Winnipeg. We've had lots of incidences outside the perimeter in Thompson, in Swan River, with weapons been brought in.
Health Minister Uzoma Asaguera did not confirm whether that would happen. They say the province is considering other options, including community safety hosts, and making plans to add 30 institutional safety officers to the healthcare system for a total of 126 across Manitoba. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba has more people experiencing deep poverty than any other province. That's according to a new Statistics Canada report looking at data from 2022. StatsCan says deep poverty is when people reach less than 75% of the basic standard of living. The Minister of Family says Manitoba's demographics played a role.
There is a racialized poverty as well. And so we do have a significant Indigenous population and a significant newcomer population that are facing additional barriers. Tragically, the result is just being further entrenched in poverty.
She points to things like the school nutrition program and free birth control initiatives as things the government hopes will reverse the cycle of poverty. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk in now. And Riley, again, it's never a good sign when I see colors behind you.
I know. Especially when you see the purple color.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Extreme cold warning has been issued ahead of a very cold night ahead for some parts of Manitoba. It doesn't mean it's not going to be cold everywhere, but we're looking at that meeting that threshold in Westman in particular. Brandon, Killarney, Boissevain, Melita, Roblin, Russell into Dauphin and Swan River, looking at temperatures near -30 overnight, factoring in the wind closer to minus 40, which is frostbite on exposed skin in 20 minutes or less. So it is going to be a cold night in Westman in particular, looking at temperatures in the Winnipeg region at least dropping down close to minus 25. So not as cold, but certainly looking at a cold night ahead for the province tonight, and we have more of those to come as we get into the next week. A mix of sun and clouds today. I know we did see that cloud kind of ebbing and flowing in Winnipeg today. That cloud last night actually helped keep our temperatures slightly warmer and warmed us up to minus 10 this afternoon. So the cloud did help keep us warm. Although it did block the sun a little bit, but we did see some sunshine today. So partly cloudy, minus 24 in Winnipeg overnight. Winds west 15, gusting to 30 into the morning, looking at minus 23 first thing in the morning, Brittany, and minus 16 in the afternoon. This is one of the warmer days in our long-range forecast. It's downhill from there. I'll have more when I come back.
Slippers and sweatpants in my future. Thank you.
You're welcome.
An offside joke is landing a PC leadership candidate in hot water. His comments about tackling homelessness made to party members have some less than amused. More on that ahead. A candidate to lead Manitoba's Progressive Conservatives joked during a speech that he would let polar bears loose in downtown Winnipeg to reduce homelessness. That joke is getting an icy reception both within the party and outside. CBC's Bartlett Kivas reports.
I always say where I come from in Churchill, we don't have any homeless people. Anybody take a guess one?
PC leadership candidate Wally Dowdrich speaking to party members in Winnipeg on Wednesday evening.
When there's serious repercussions for a bad lifestyle, people smarten up very quickly. So my plan is to import 10 polar bears, then let them go in front of the ledge.
Dowdrich is one of 2 candidates running for PC leader. He owns Lazy Bear Lodge, a hotel in Churchill, and Lazy Bear Expeditions, an ecotourism company that takes tourists to see polar bears. His joke about letting bears loose in Winnipeg is leaving people who work with homeless people cold. Marion Willis of St. Boniface Streetlink said Dowdrich lacks compassion.
He's not a very astute politician, is he? If he doesn't feel extremely foolish by now, he certainly should. And if he doesn't, he probably should not be running for leadership.
End Homelessness Winnipeg also condemned the joke. In a statement, CEO Jason Whitford said the recent remarks trivializing homelessness and suggesting life-threatening consequences as a deterrent are hurtful and deeply damaging. Homelessness is not the result of a bad lifestyle. It is caused by poverty, lack of affordable housing, mental health challenges, trauma, and systemic inequities, among others. A PC member who volunteers in the kitchen at Siloam Mission and who attended Dowdrich's speech says he too is not amused.
I don't know anyone who possibly thinks that that's funny, because you're basically joking that homeless people can be bear food.
In an interview, Dowdrich says he was clearly joking. He says he knows many homeless people suffer from addictions.
I love people. I love everybody. As that pro-life type of person, that attitude dictates the value that I put on people everywhere, including the homeless people.
Dowdrich is running for PC leader against Fort White MLA Abi Khan. The party plans to name a new leader on April 26th. Bartlett Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A plan to replace the city-run downtown information hub with a new service provider has sparked a labor dispute. Funding for the community connection space in the Millennium Library ran out at the end of last year. The Downtown Community Safety Partnership proposed to use the space as a base for its outreach team. CUPE Local 500 says that violates their collective agreement. A city spokesperson said it would respond to the union's grievance through the process set out in the collective agreement. A Manitoba First Nation has almost no working fire hydrants. Tatasqueyak Cree Nation is more than 700 kilometers north of Winnipeg and has about 2,500 residents. Without piped water to supply hydrants, the community is using buckets to fight fires. The CBC's Sanuda Ranawake has more.
When I hear a fire, this is what we use.
Virginia Audi would love to see fewer buckets at the fire hall. But she and other volunteer firefighters need them desperately when there's a fire. Most of Tatasqueyak Cree Nation is without running water.
When a fire truck has to go get water, we use these in the meantime.
In 2023, a fire tore through this apartment complex. 2 children were sent to hospital, and 49 were displaced. The community's only fire truck wasn't working at the time. And is once again idle. Fire Chief Melvin Cook Jr. responded to a house fire a month after the apartment burned down. This time, a 25-year-old mother died.
We lost the fight.
He wants the issues fixed before another disaster, starting with new fire hydrants that work.
They're at least 40 years old, and some of them have been taken down, and some of them have been removed.
Some in the community want more transparency and action from Chief and Council. Douglas Kitchakisek is the community's other fire chief.
Oh, they haven't had meetings yet. Been neglecting to have informed the people of their meeting, their plans, and whatever they plan, and people are frustrated because of that.
In a phone call, Chief Doreen Spence says they haven't had meetings because of debts in the community. She says plans have been sent to the federal government about fixing water supply issues. In a statement, a federal spokesperson said they're following closely on Tatasqueyak Cree Nation's lead for developing a water plan. Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News, Tatasquak, Cree Nation.
Riley's back in now, and I was saying yesterday that I was sharing photos with you that my mom had sent from Vancouver of all the snow they got. Well, I was sharing our forecast today with my sister, who just said, you know, that's a big no for me. She doesn't deal with these temperatures and thinks that we're all a little cuckoo for living here with these crazy temperatures.
You know, I would rather the cold and the sun over blowing snow, drifting snow, and accumulating snow.
Right, we keep saying you just got to dress for it, so make sure you are dressing for it for the next week.
Exactly, at least the next week. Some of the longer range models, Brittany, showing this cold snap extending into the next 10 days even. So we're in for a bit of a ride. We'll put it that way. I'm going to start with satellite radar with the Futurecaster actually, and show you something big picture here on what's missing us. You'll see this area of low pressure down in the States already spreading some snow up into North and South Dakota, into Minnesota as well. You'll recall last night you may have seen I was showing you some of the watches and warnings down south of the border, some of the winter storm warnings that were in place. Well, yes, that was because of this system here. As it makes its way into the Midwest, this is going to create some issues even into the Greater Toronto area and parts of Ontario and Quebec as we get through the weekend. So we are dodging a bit of a bullet as this makes its way into the Great Lakes, thanks to a ridge of high pressure, which will lead to sunnier skies but colder temperatures as we get through the weekend and certainly into the next 10 days. So not a lot to show you through Saturday other than a mix of sun and clouds really across the province, that sun and cloud kind of ebbing and flowing throughout the day. Saturday into Sunday, we do start to introduce a little bit more cloud cover. And with that, you can see here, this does come with the chance on Sunday of a couple of isolated scattered flurries. So don't be surprised if you run into a couple of flurries, not talking about anything accumulating, but certainly you could be running into some flurries as you get through the day Sunday. Into Monday, we start to clear out a bit more, and that's when we'll start to really see that cold air sinking south and really setting in for the week. So this Arctic ridge here, you can start to see shift south as we get through the day on Sunday. You can see the jet stream already dipping far south in the United States. And this area in pink, this cold pocket of air sinks into Monday, some of the coldest temperatures that we'll see early Monday into early Tuesday as this wraps around here, and you'll see another wave here as we get Tuesday into Wednesday that we'll see some colder temperatures yet as we get through into Tuesday and Wednesday. So we are looking at temperatures overnight tonight that will feel closer to minus 40 with the wind chill as we get into the morning tomorrow, minus 27 in Brandon, minus 23 in Winnipeg and Gimli. Dauphin looking at minus 23 degrees as well, with the wind chill feeling closer to minus 40, which is frostbite on exposed skin in about 20 minutes or so, even less as those wind chill factors and the wind starts to pick up a little bit, although we're not looking at too much wind. So minus 16 for the high tomorrow, minus 15, Brittany, for Sunday, and then into the minus 20s as we head into mid next week.
All right, stay bundled up. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have to take another break. There is more to come after this. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. It seems the stakes at play with the new U.S. administration couldn't be higher. Today, the Prime Minister issued a dire warning about Donald Trump, saying the new U.S. president is serious when he says he wants Canada to become America's 51st state. He made the remarks at a Canada-U.S. economic summit after journalists had left the event. And Justin Trudeau outlined his beliefs on why Trump wants this country. Evan Dyer reports.
So as much as I know the media would love to stick around for the Q&A, they're not going to be able to do that.
The doors were closed, but the mic was still on.
But Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing. In my conversation with him
The CBC News camera didn't capture all of Trudeau's remarks about annexation, but the Toronto Star captured more, and he made it clear he didn't believe the tariffs were about trade or drugs or migrants. I suggest that not only does the Trump administration know how many critical minerals we have, but that may be even why they keep talking about absorbing us and making us the 51st state, he told the room. They're very aware of our resources, of what we have, and they very much want to be able to benefit from those. Business mogul Arlene Dickinson was in the room with Trudeau as a member of his advisory council, and she says his remarks align with her own thinking.
I think my belief is very strongly, and has been, I've articulated this many times in my posts and my discussions with people, that I do believe that objective of Donald Trump is to take over our resources.
Trudeau has reportedly made similar comments privately to premiers, raising questions about how long the government has viewed this as Trump's endgame.
There could be questions to the Prime Minister and to other ministers who are involved. When did you know that this was a serious thing? Did you know he wasn't joking that first time? Like, what's really been going on behind the scenes here?
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state.
The U.S. president has been open about wanting to use economic force to annex Canada. He's threatened close ally Denmark with war if it doesn't hand over Greenland.
I don't think that sovereignty is a concept that troubles Donald Trump a whole lot. He thinks this is an artificially drawn border. And so I think just this kind of blows the doors off of everything and really kind of opens up like really strange conversations about how we will protect our sovereignty.
Canada made a show of activity at the border, trying to prove it's serious about drugs and migrants to address Trump's stated concerns.
He needed to be able to say there was a threat to the United States. That comes in the form of fentanyl and border protection. And so it is a distraction. It is something that needs to be dealt with, but it's a distraction from what he really then talks about, which is access to our resources and access to having Canada be part of, the United States.
The apparent realization that Canada itself may be the target, raising fresh questions about how this country defends itself. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The possibility of a trade war between Canada and the U.S. has some Manitoba nonprofits holding their breath. They say affordable housing developments will be impacted, with nearly a third of materials coming from south of the border. CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
Construction is underway. These workers have been building at this site for over a year. It'll become transitional housing for women fleeing domestic violence, a home to at least 24 families. And it's just one of a dozen affordable housing projects End Homelessness Winnipeg is a part of.
We need to keep going. We need to keep building. We need to continue developing.
Jason Whitford is the head of End Homelessness Winnipeg. A possible trade war between Canada and the U.S. means higher prices for upcoming and ongoing projects, a result of Canadian counter tariffs on some U.S. imports.
Instead of producing 300 units, our ability might be only to produce 250 units, which will place an increase in pressure on the existing resources, such as emergency shelters.
The initial round of counter tariffs would see prices for insulation, appliances, ventilation, even construction equipment and tools increase by 25%.
And it's not feasible for organizations to kind of reach towards. So it could result in loss of projects.
It is a little frustrating, right? Because it's something that shouldn't really affect us, and yet.
At this Habitat for Humanity development, CEO Jamie Hall is holding his breath, uncertain of what will happen. From vents to weather wrap, some materials on site are sourced from the U.S. While an increase of pricing won't stop construction, It means Habitat's projects across the province could be delayed.
It's going to slow down the pace at which we can build, but we'd still be committed to serving those families that we're working in partnership with. It just might take us longer.
The organizations say they're breathing a sigh of relief, but it's a relief they know is temporary. Tariffs between Canada and the U.S. could come into effect in early March. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
U.S. tariffs on China are taking a toll on some Canadian businesses. Many small companies use Chinese materials in their Canadian-made products that are destined for the U.S. An exemption is supposed to protect them from the duties on Chinese goods. But today, the White House signaled that exemption could soon be revoked. Anis Hadari reports.
This underwear is sold by Canadians and shipped from Canada, but they might face a U.S. tariff on China because they contain material made there. It could mean sticker shock for Americans.
Those parcels are going to get to those U.S. customers, and there's going to be additional tax that they're going to have to pay that they may not have been aware of.
If that tax happens, it's because the Trump administration is talking about eliminating something called the de minimis exemption. That exemption eliminated tariffs on shipments from China to the U.S. when they're worth less than $800. That includes shipments from Canada, like clothes, if they're made with Chinese materials. This Montreal pantyhose maker is already laying off staff, in part because that exemption may go away. 85% of its sales are to the U.S.
This is an incredibly difficult decision to make. You're affecting people's jobs, people's livelihoods. You're adding uncertainty into their lives.
And without the exemption, the party's over for U.S. consumers who love cheap orders from retailers like Temu or Shein.
Virtually all of those shipments come in on a de minimis basis. No duties are paid, no taxes are collected. And so if you're a U.S. retailer, you're probably not thrilled about that.
A change would make Chinese competition more expensive, something U.S. competitors might like. For now, the Trump administration says it won't eliminate the exemption until it has an easier way to collect the money.
It's underwear made from trees.
Underwear made from trees, kind of like bamboo, right?
But Canadian businesses say they need clarity. They don't know how these tariffs might work or if they'll even be collected.
When the rules are so vague, it becomes almost impossible to decipher what needs to actually be done. And that is really, it's very frustrating to have to deal with.
The hope is any taxes on this underwear are brief. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, for fans of football and fans of spectacle, the countdown is on to the biggest event of the year. The 59th edition of the Super Bowl goes Sunday in New Orleans.
I'm trying to be the greatest Patrick Mahomes that I can be. That's obviously a goal of anyone's, is to be the greatest in their profession.
That's Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes speaking about the greatest of all-time debate as his team goes for its third straight title this Sunday in New Orleans. It's one of the storylines for this Super Bowl, and there are enough of them to fill an NFL playbook. For the Eagles and quarterback Jalen Hurts, there's the talk about avenging that Super Bowl loss to Mahomes in Kansas City 2 years ago.
We've got a ton of different players on our team. We've got a lot of young players starring and playing pivotal roles and everything.
And Eagles running back Saquon Barkley is going into the big game with Offensive Player of the Year honors. Barkley rushed for 2,005 yards with plays like this one. That jaw-dropping backwards hurdle over a tackler is one of the highlights of the season. The Super Bowl kicks off at 6:30 Eastern in New Orleans. Well, gambling is all about risk, but last fall, medical researchers described a different kind of risk, saying gambling represented an expanding public health threat. And it came as wagering had assumed a new high profile in sports betting. The CBC's Jennifer Yoon has the story.
When millions tune into the Super Bowl this weekend, they'll be getting more than just football.
The two best teams in football are about to collide.
Slick ads like this. Selling apps that are effectively a casino in your pocket, open 24/7.
How many of you have seen a sports betting ad in the past month?
This group of students, athletes, and a coach say they can't escape it.
They make the games flashy.
You can't watch an entire game without seeing these ads on the court.
My friends are doing it, like underage people are doing it too.
Researchers in a top medical journal now warning governments gambling is an expanding public health threat and should be treated like alcohol or tobacco. They warn gambling can lead to depression, anxiety, domestic abuse, and even suicide.
They don't only just affect the person who gambles, they affect their loved ones, their families, their colleagues, their friends, their relationships.
This is literally about winning money.
27-year-old Theodore Oliver, who is in recovery, knows this bitterly well. His gambling didn't just cost him a fortune, it also destroyed a relationship.
It was harming the people in my life that I cared about, and I didn't have control over that as much as I thought that I could.
On paper, there are different rules put in place and enforced by the provinces, but in practice, it's kind of the Wild West. Foreign websites without licenses in Canada are still accessible here, letting Canadians make bets and making it easier for minors to skirt the rules by putting in fake birthdays.
This gambling industry spokesperson says it's on provincial governments to bring in stronger safeguards.
I think that's the best way to protect the public, is ensuring that there's regulation for this gaming.
The dynamic used to be
But a University of Toronto psychologist suggests a different approach. Treat it like cannabis, which isn't as widely marketed.
we should be saying, okay, people can gamble if they want, but we are not going to push it aggressively. We are not going to glorify it.
As for those picking up the pieces from an addiction, they'd like to see more support, not just for themselves, but for their loved ones. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, a celebration of culture and traditions. Brandon kicks off its annual Westman Cultural Festival this weekend with 2 new pavilions. We'll have more on that after the break. Brandon is gearing up for its annual Westman Multicultural Festival this weekend. This year features 11 cultural pavilions, including Nigerian and Palestinian events for the first time. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has the story.
Hard at work preparing the perfect layer of baklava, Ida Harrison is getting ready to introduce Brandonites to her culture. She's hosting Brandon's first Palestinian cultural pavilion at the annual Westman Multicultural Festival. Born in Bethlehem, Harrison's lived in Brandon for 25 years. She says now is the time to showcase Palestinian culture and help Brandonites understand the impacts of the Hamas-Israel war.
I don't think they see the real truth that's going on in Gaza, to tell you the truth. Yes, we are a peaceful people and we want to live together, but there is lots of struggle for Palestinian people to live normal life.
This year marks the 19th annual Westman Multicultural Festival. Organizers say they're excited to have 4 new pavilions this year because it shows how different cultures weave together in Brandon's diverse cultural tapestry. Emmanuel Akobi is hosting the city's first Nigerian cultural pavilion. He wants people to taste the food and experience the vibrant music and dance of his culture.
So what I'm going to really appreciate especially, and what I'm going to look forward to see especially, is how people will come together to witness our Nigerian heritage.
Harrison wants her pavilion to be a place of education showing Palestinian resilience. The pavilion will feature poems, food, a fashion show, and other activities to showcase her culture. Harrison says she wants to show that Palestinians and Israelis can coexist peacefully, even if their governments are at war.
So that's my hope, that's my dream. And if they want to live all of us together, I'm open to live together, but in peace and equality. Less than that, I refuse to live.
The Westman Multicultural Festival began with opening ceremonies at the Ukrainian Pavilion Thursday. The festival runs until Saturday. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
You can tell it's dinner time because I was just eyeing that baklava and you and I were speaking about restaurants. Well, that was airing. Hungry. Yes. It is that time. Maybe time for a nice warm soup or stew or something like that this weekend because, whew.
What about a cat nap?
Yeah, that too, with a nice big blanket.
Yeah, exactly. It's Feline Friday.
Yeah.
And I need you to see this picture, Brittany.
Okay.
I need to show you this one. I had to use this picture. This is Howie and his Lego look-alike.
What?
Let me tell you, I had a good giggle about this in the newsroom earlier today when I was putting this in. Thank you, Donna and Les. This is so detailed and so well done. You can send your pets, Lego or not, to talkback at cbc.ca. I will use them. Minus 23 first thing in the morning in Winnipeg. We are looking at a mix of sun and clouds throughout the day tomorrow as we get through the day. Minus 16 through the afternoon, west winds 15, gusting to 30, and dropping to minus 18 by the time we get to supper time. So yeah, cooler than normal. Cooler than we were today. Minus 10s in Winnipeg, Portage, Morden, Winkler, minus 12 in Brandon. Really into the minus teens for much of northern Manitoba today, where we did see a couple of stray flurries through parts of the north. Do expect that we might see a couple of scattered flurries through northern Manitoba. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies overnight tonight through the south. Minus 24s for Dauphin and Swan River. A bit colder, closer actually to minus 30 even into parts of Westman. Minus 27 in Brandon overnight. Minus 24s for Portage, Winnipeg, Pinawa, and where we will see a little bit more cloud cover back into northwestern Ontario. That's where we do have some warmer temperatures, actually more seasonal for overnight lows for this time of the year. There's that stray chance of a flurry through Thompson to Dooley Lake, minus 26 in Lynn Lake overnight, minus 22 on the way for the Pas overnight. Mostly sunny skies through tomorrow, although we'll see some cloud hanging around, so some sun cloud mixing as we get through the day, really province-wide throughout the day tomorrow. By the afternoon, looking at minus 16 in the Pas and Flin Flon, minus 18 in Thompson, Churchill, minus 21 tomorrow afternoon, and minus 19s for Gillam and Shamattawa. More sun to start the day, particularly through Westman throughout the day. On Saturday, although we will see some cloud mixing in, so general sun cloud mix throughout the day across southern Manitoba tomorrow. Once we get into the afternoon hours, maybe some cloud starts to mix in a little more, particularly into the northern Interlake and into parts of northwestern Ontario. Minus 15 for Kenora tomorrow, minus 14 for Dryden, minus 17s, minus 18s back to the west. And this is the kind of temperatures that we're looking at as we get into Sunday as well. Temperatures staying in the minus teens, should be about minus 9 for this time of the year for a daytime high. A little bit more cloud cover. And again, that chance of a stray flurry into Sunday across southern Manitoba, minus 15 for Winnipeg, minus 13 for Gimli. And Brittany, we're looking at temperatures into the minus 20s for parts of northern Manitoba. Temperatures into next week get colder than this. I'll have that coming up in your 7-day forecast.
Oh boy. Okay. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
He was Canada's first Black police chief and led Winnipeg's police service until he retired from the force in 2016. Now he's just released his newest book, One, A Story of Hope in Our Time. Devon Clunas joins me now. And Devon, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure to be here with you.
I want to start with a little bit about what drove you to first pursue policing at the start of this all.
You know, it was 1975 when we arrived in the country, and I remember at the time, everything I saw on television said there couldn't be a relationship between people of color and police, but I never believed that to be true. I never saw a Black officer in our city, so I thought, why not? Go and be the bridge builder. So I went into policing simply to build that relationship between initially the police and people of color, and I also wanted to set a really good example for the next generation coming behind me. So it's all about community service, why I joined the police.
That has been a tough relationship at times, and I want to get back to that. But this isn't your first book, but this one is an autobiography. So what do you want people to take away from it?
You know, I look at the state of society right now, and most of the times what we see on the news really is the negative. And as I said, being one of the first Black police officers in the Winnipeg Police Service, rising to the rank of chief of police, I'm not saying that the world isn't a perfect place, but what I'm trying to tell the world is that we've made significant progress, and we really should, while we deal with the challenges, celebrate all of the successes. I don't want the next generation to believe that the road ahead is simply filled with potholes and pitfalls. And I really want people to recognize that we are one, we're on this journey together, and right now we're just so divided along ethnic and cultural lines. But I want us to realize in this country, particularly in Winnipeg, there's an opportunity for us to come forward and show the rest of the world how to live effectively as one.
Yeah, you know, I've had a chance to speak with you many times over the years, and be it protests that you were at and took part in and were there as an officer, and speaking about inclusion, and inclusion
Yes.
really being a big issue here in Canada and very much in the United States. So we have those communities, as you spoke about, that don't really have positive relationships with police all the time. So what do you see as needing to change?
I think the key is really to be having these really meaningful conversations. As I said, if we're simply socialized by what we see on the news or in social media, I think we're getting a very skewed view of the world. On a daily basis, the police in this city, and I can tell you across our country, North America, are doing exceedingly valuable and great things for people from every different ethnic community. But those good things never really make the news. It's only the negative. And so I think people have a very skewed view of the world. Again, I really want to stress, I'm not saying that it's perfect, but typically what we feed on is what grows. And if we feed just on the negativity, that's what we're going to believe the world is. And I think right now we're feeding too much on the negative.
Devon, I remember speaking to you when you were chief of police, and even speaking to you just in these recent years about how things have changed here in our city. We're really dealing with increasing violent crime rates, high murder rates, opioid and drug crisis, and we're still waiting to see who's going to helm the service now since Danny Smythe retired. So what do you see now as those biggest issues the city is facing? How have things changed?
Yeah, they really have changed significantly, and I typically like to say there's no one silver bullet. It's not just the police service's responsibility, not just government. All of us have to come together. What I've seen, the greatest downfall is just the breakdown of that social cohesion. So what we're dealing with really are just the symptoms of that. And if we don't get back to the grassroots, for example, ensuring that every single child has the opportunity for a decent education, that families are effectively supported, those are the things that we really need to focus our attention on. But unfortunately, what we're focusing on is crime. And oftentimes, as I said, I don't believe simply more police is the answer to all of these issues. Now, hear me clearly. There might be a need at this point in time. But if we think police are simply going to be able to arrest our way out of all these very deep, challenging social issues, we're setting ourselves up for failure. So we need to get back to the basics, ensuring that we have safe, healthy communities beyond just policing.
I know that was one thing that you worked really hard on, was working with communities. This book was just released during, of course, Black History Month. Was that intentional for you?
It was very intentional, and really I wanted to send the message that if you look at the history of Black people in North America, it didn't start out very well. It was very negative, detrimental to the social conditioning of Black people. However, yours truly is an example of that we've come a very long way. And when I look at where we are currently today socially, we're in that dark place. But we can actually move forward together and sooner than later arrive at a much better destination. The very same way that we've been able to elevate, where we're coming from as Black people. We can all do that. So that's why I really wanted to launch it at the start of Black History Month.
Devon, I want to thank you so much for your time and congratulations on your latest book.
Thank you very much. Good day.
Well, after the break, you otters see this. We end the week with 2 baby otters getting their first taste of winter. And of course, Riley's back with a last check on our forecast. Stay with us. Manitoba is kicking off its first Winter Trails Day tomorrow. It's a new annual day promoting the thousands of kilometers of winter trails across the province. As part of the celebration, a friendly snowshoe race is being held on the Nestawaya River Trail at the Forks. It pits winter enthusiasts against winter trail experts. Manitobans can also participate in guided trail adventures in Birds Hill and Spruce Woods parks on Saturday. Access to provincial parks again is free for the entire month. Those snow passes are still required for snowmobiles using designated trails.
Dress for the weather if you're taking part in any of those events, because we are looking at temperatures below seasonal tomorrow, minus 16 in Winnipeg. A few clouds, feeling closer to minus 25 with the wind chill in Winnipeg through the afternoon, but closer to minus 40 first thing in the morning for the Westman region. Winds not too much of a factor, but still you might notice a bit of a breeze. Winds gusting up to 30 out of the west through the afternoon tomorrow. Minus 15 on the way for Sunday. There's that slight chance of a flurry I was talking about. Minus 19 into Monday. Then look at these temperatures as we get into the rest of the work week. Barely getting above minus 20 through the rest of the week. Slight chance of some flurries on Friday with a high of minus 19. And watch those overnight lows closer to minus 30 through next week as well. Manitobans may be all too familiar with winter, of course, and temperatures like that, but some never forget the first time they see snow.
It's true. 2 orphaned otter pups who were rescued by the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Society this past summer had their first chance to experience snow. Here's their reaction. It's our Daily Lift. Nadine Trottier Nadine Trottier is a senior marine mammal trainer with the aquarium. She says building a snowman for the animals is a tradition she does every year.
So this year I made a mini version for Tofino and Luna. I used their favorite toys and I've used some clams to kind of decorate the snowman, and they got the pleasure to play with it and knock it over.
Trottier says Tofino and Luna enjoyed their first snowfall and they immediately started snacking on the flakes. I would too.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Amazing. They did get a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Vancouver's got the snow, we've got the cold.
Yes.
Big shout out to our whole team, our reporters, our camera crew who are out there every day in this cold, everybody else who has to work out in the cold as well.
It's going to be a cold one next week.
Yeah, stay warm. We'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Great weekend.